Oh, nice to meet you, Mo.
Nice to meet you, Leighton, officially. What is up?
Yeah, so typically with a new guest, I would like you to introduce yourself and don't forget to, go into detail about how you ended up to where you are today. Because I think that's usually really interesting part of understanding how people got to where
Well, my name is Maurice Diaz. I am the founder of IgroSoil, and I am here. Gosh, that's a long story. So I was a contractor. So I'm a big fan, Leighton. You know, your channel's actually been a big impact on my journey, and I've been doing this for 2 years. Literally, I went from never planting anything to now just elbows deep in soil microscopy, microbes, and it started by me. It was like right at the 2020 pandemic, where they literally, the day they said last day of work, no more work. And that day I came home, and you know, I wasn't feeling well, and I end up in a hospital with a flesh eating bacteria that, I mean, just poof, put me out. I was in the hospital for months. It was a very specific bacteria, 4 years gangrene, and all I did was work before that. I was 70 hours. You know the drill. You in your construction, 70 hours a week, traveling everywhere, disconnected from life, disconnected from family, and then here I am. I survived this initial upfront blast of surgeries, about 10 of them in 20 days, and they just trying to catch that bacteria before it hit my facial wall and would have spread throughout my entire body. They had me in induced coma. What up, skunk? And what can I say, man? Probably a couple months later, you know, a big guy. Naturally, I was always a big guy, so you can imagine I lost every bit of muscle mass sitting on that bed, laying in that bed, and I came out of that thing just microbes and indigenous culture, kind of, you know. And I did hear a quote when I was in there, because, you know, family couldn't come visit, and it was Bob Marley that said some people are so poor all they have is money. And I was sitting in this hospital, family couldn't come visit me. You know, after you count all the ceiling tiles 100 times, you know, and then you name them, right? You know, then you start really, you start paying attention to what matters, man. And I thought, okay, you know, I am gonna have to get off these crazy medications, drugs, big time. You know, I mean, I had skin graft. I won't get into the details of that, but it's been a long journey. But I come home, and I wanted to grow medicinal medicines, which is really not something you can do here in Florida. And I was already kind of in this journey of like the horse blinders came off, right? Once I decided, okay, I've done the money path, and there's family here. I hadn't seen my mother in, like, God knows, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and she only lives down the street. And I ran into Elaine. You know, first of all, my cousin was like, well, if you want to grow, you want to go look at worms. And I'm like, what do I need worms for, dude? What are you talking about? You know? And that started the like, what? They're doing what? They're eating food scraps and what? You know? So I find Elaine, and Elaine pushed me to Matt Powers. And Matt Powers was the energy I was looking for. I love everything I learned from Elaine, but I started crawling for more info. And
they are. So when you met Elaine, or you started?
no, I'm sorry, online.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you take the course?
I ended up taking Matt's course.
Okay, all right.
Because, so on the back end of this thing, I lost everything, right? I lost my business. God, I couldn't even walk. I was, you know, open wounded when they sent me home. You know, I mean, treatments of gauze, dude, crazy, right? I just won't even get a staples and stitches and all this craziness. And here I am, like, somehow, I think if I really had to, like, put it all together, I think that I was able to get through a lot of those days, those painful days, through microscopy, because my family now, my cousins wanted to help me. They're like, well, dude, you should, like, we'll help you pay for those classes. I had a lot of money owed to me. You know how the contracting businesses do. It was a 30-day net pay. Those people abandoned me. I had probably 20, 30 grand out there. And nothing matters when now you're, like, fighting for your life, right? Now it's like, okay, I got to be on this planet. I've survived this craziness, and now I need to rehabilitate through it. And I've, again, found Elaine and found Matt. And Matt gave me his introduction course, because I didn't have anything after that. And my family bought me the microscope, knowing who I was following. They decided this is probably the scope he wants. And they went and I got this thing in the mail, and I went out there and I grabbed sand and I put it on the microscope, and I'm like, this is not what I'm seeing on TV, you know? And that started the journey, and I started obsessing over it. And as I was rehabilitating, I was going out there, literally tearing open wounds. I mean, ripping things off, because it inspired me to get out there, and I need to move. I need to be mobile, and looking at samples and then feeding microbes. I started obsessing over feeding them. What happens if I give them tortilla? Then I start watching the succession of them as they eat tortilla, right? And meanwhile, digging through the internet, I shut my life down. It was just every day after my rituals of rehabilitation, you know, gauze changing in the morning. And I've been, and I haven't come out of it. And so, you know, I start listening to the protocols that, you know, the plan that Matt puts in place.
You know what? Can you try to turn your microphone up?
Oh.
When you're in close, I can hear you, but you're drifting in and out.
Yeah. I have a bad habit of moving back and forth. I get psyched when I talk about soil.
No, it's good. I'm happy. I feel the energy. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So anyway, I find Matt and I launched, dude. You know, I'm like, whoa, metadata information. I, again, never put a plant in the ground, so I kind of did it backwards. I had no interest in planting. Ryan Sullivan, he's doing it big. I had no interest in planting, and then I learned that there's a relationship, right? And it's like, for me to maximize my soil, I need to grow. And, you know, here I am 2 years later, and then I found Rick over at Gardens in Glass. So Rick Parker, Gardens in Glass, has been a mentor to me, and he unlocked me because I started following these protocols. And then I started recognizing, wait a minute, anaerobic microbes are here for a reason if you really think about what soil does. Because we had a hurricane, and I went out there after the hurricane, took a sample, and I saw a bunch of ciliates. Threw me into the facultative path. Wait, hold on, you know. And then Rick's always like, Mo, just put it in there. And then he introduced me to you guys, and where you're now this aquaculture thing. So you're bringing answers to me where I'm like, yes, aquatic microbes are the key here, because they are like the ultimate nutrient cyclers, right? These things are like setting transformers into the soil temporarily until it settles back up, right? But yeah, that really set me off, you know. So that's basically in a nutshell.
So how did you hear about aquatic microorganisms or AMOs?
Through Rick over at Gardens in Glass. He's again like a mentor. He's like, oh, did you know Leighton Morrison? I go, no, I don't know anyone, right? I'm just new to all of this. Sends me your links, and then I hear you talking about aquatic microbes, diatoms, and this is the data I'm looking for right now, because I had already gone deep into a lot. But I'm in Florida, so I'm surrounded by aquatic microbes, right? And you know, it's like aquatic soil is what it is. I think you in my world coined it aquatic soil. And I'm like, that's right, dude. These, you know, because these microbes that are in there are, again, like apex cyclers. So they bring so much benefit to it. So that started that whole thing. And we started composting in every different way. And everything I did goes into the microscope. Everything I do comes to the microscope for verification, right? I don't live and die by the microscope said this, but what it allowed me to do is say, well, I disagree with that, and here's why. Let me show you. Because to me, I have to see it to believe it. I don't have that legacy education. I don't have the experience. I'm new to all this, like a baby or a dog being set off a leash, right? And I want more. I want more. And then it became about teaching it. So now I'm like, okay, dude, how am I going to retain this information that we know a lot of this stuff to fix things? And I started teaching kids. You know, it was this thing. Kids used to scare me, dude. And now I'm like, they're my target. Like, let's get these kids and let's show them, because if you can show them, then it's going to leave an impression, right? And that's how I am. I need to see it to say, wow, I remember that. That was alive, you know. And I see you doing that with high schoolers. So I also said, let me follow those that have been ahead of me already, and do the complete opposite that I've ever done in life, which is fucking, I'm going to go figure this out on my own because that's who I am, and I'm stubborn, and I'm going to do it my way, and it's my way or the highway. No, I had to let all of that go. Say, okay, Elaine, Matt, people like yourself. Okay, let's just trust what they're teaching so that I can accelerate my learning, right? It's kind of like learn from your parents and you're like, yeah, right, I'm gonna go get in trouble anyway. So, that's what's got me here is just being blown away by what's happening in the soil and wanting everyone to like see this so that you can believe it. And when you believe it, then maybe you'll do something about it, because it's very easy once you understand that, once you understand the structure of microbes and soil, right? So, yeah.
Wow, that's a great journey, brother, and welcome aboard. I mean, 2 years is putting in some hard time, and it's funny that the reason I started my journey was a similar thing. I didn't get flesh-eating bacteria. I got divorced. My children were taken away. All my money was stolen. I was thrown out of my house. My credit cards were maxed out by my ex. I was fucked. Like, and this is 2008. There was no work. I had been busy since I was 18. I always had a waiting list of people waiting for me to get to them. That evaporated. It was pretty horrifying. And so, but I see this repeatedly over and over again. People have to go through something that's really life altering, like counting the ceiling tiles till you go crazy and say, all right, I got to find something else to do here, right? And that's when you reach into your inner soul. And I try to say, the only way I can really say it is it's like finding your path, right? You don't know it's your path, and you probably will question that the rest of your life, but other times you'll be like, I know this is my path, right? I'm passionate about this. This excites me. So I guess, more than anything, I want to say, welcome aboard, bro. Welcome
Thank you,
aboard.
man. And thank you for what you've done. Right? I think I had the opportunity to, we had Luna on, and I asked her in the backstage, like, maybe we hope that you told how many people you touch, because, when we started getting to pheromones and stuff, that was kind of like, okay, this is where the direction, from the searching. But, I'm with you. I call it battle tested. It seems like the passionate people that I find in this have been battle tested in life, where we've been drugged to. I went from a non-spiritual, almost borderline atheist, if you will, to saying we've got to be dragged through the dark in order to become this guiding light, or in order to understand it. I need to go through this fire to understand how bad that's going to burn, and come out of that scorched and say, the light's this way, and this is the direction I'm going to go. And I don't care, it's almost like you can't take anything away from me that hasn't been taken away from me before, which makes me dangerous.
Right? And that's the key, is that you have nothing. And that's when you really start to go, well, what do I really fucking need? Right? And what you need is soul food, something that fills your spirit and your heart, and gives you that feeling of, all right, this is amazing. And so, yeah, it's really inspirational to hear people like you. And this is why I have this podcast. It's like, because, first of all, I want to give back. I mean, I was so blessed. I got to study under Dr. Leighton at Rodale Institute for 18 months, pretty much one-on-one, 3 to 4 days a week. This was way before she put her courses together. And, I got to question her methods and her, methodology a lot of times. And I would she say, well, no, you got to do it this way. Well, I try other things, right? But that was how I learned, was by trial and error. And so anyway, once I got out of there, and I was like a rocket ship, I was taking off. I was doing projects all over the country, huge monuments, state, federal parks, crazy shit.
Yeah.
And so I was so blessed. And that's when I started to realize, like, wow, I just got given a very, very powerful gift. She didn't charge me a dime, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so I have a duty to give it back to people, or teach people, or at least like sell them an inoculant. Like I never wanted to. I'm an anti-business at this point. I don't want you to buy my product all the time. I want you to buy it once, make your compost, learn how to do it, and then you're on your way, right?
Yeah.
And make it as easy as possible for people to get that initial leg up, man. That first leg is a bitch, right? You made compost a million different ways. It's not easy, right? You have all these different plants. Some brown plants are heavy nitrogen. Some brown plants are no nitrogen. And the same with the green. So even if you had a greens to brown ratio that you follow, sometimes it gets super hot. Sometimes it never gets hot. So, it's a challenge. And so anyway, that's why I do it. And I'm really excited to have you on the show today, my friend.
I'm happy to be here, man. I was originally, I think almost a year ago, people sent me your link and I was like, what am I going to talk? What am I going to tell Leighton? Right. I'm like learning from this guy and I'm learning from, and I think Ken sent me a message, was like, if people are telling you to be on, you should be on. And then of course I started teaching and that distracted me. And I learned so much, from the biology. I learned so much from soil. I learned so much from the community. It really, I want to honor it. Like you said, the fact that like Matt did what he did and brought me into that course. And I felt like, okay, I need to, like, I'm not letting anyone down here. It's very loyal. I come from the streets of California, dude. You know what I mean? Before I moved to Florida, I was a hot mess. I left that place smoking hot back in the day. So it's a loyalty thing. And I'm extremely loyal. And I feel like I need, like you said, my goal is that if I do sell you something now, go here. Here's how you fix it. Here's how you make it. Here's how you do it. Go fix your land. And I'm lucky enough that I'm able to, call people that are just like, Mo, if you got a question, call me, because I know you're on some accelerated pace of learning stuff. I'm in white papers, bro, because bro science was early on for me, and then now I'm like, no. I need to see what I need to be able to, with conviction, say something that I know I'm talking about, because I usually get some kickback from people who want to be able to at least debate somebody who's got that legacy education that is taught. And they, if I offended them, okay, but you're taught to think a certain way. And I'm like a kid, bro. And when I teach these kids, when they see a nematode, they named it Frank, bro. In my class, a nematode now is a Frank. I have no control over that. But you know what? That's all that matters to me, is that they know it's a worm that they call Frank. Oh, there's a Frank, Mr. Mo. I'm like, well, as long as you know it's a nematode. Yeah, a Frank. That's what we said. It's like, okay, cool, good. Then it's Frank. So be it. But yeah, it's the visuals of it all.
So if you're reading white papers, there's a really, really important one to understand. And I think her name is Lynn Cartufa out of Colorado State University. She's the first person that wrote a paper that explained to me why what I was doing worked so well. And she named the liquid extract, compost extract, dissolved organic matter, DOM. That was just like, oh my God, this makes all the sense in the world. In her work, she explains that dissolved organic matter is only 1% to 2% of the overall soil organic pool. Now, the soil organic pool in typical land is very low. It could be low as 1%, 2%, 5%. I mean, they think farmland at 12% is good. My goal is 20 to 30% organic matter, because the more organic matter you have, the more powerful your soil will perform.
Right.
So to think about it as the soil, the overall organic soil pool, as 1% to 2% of the soil, and then the dissolved organic matter is 1% to 2% of that. It's a fraction of a fraction.
Yeah.
So that's something you should look at. Also, we should connect you to Jimmy Perkins. He's Three-Eyed Tiger down there in Florida. I forget exactly where he is, but he's doing some amazing work. And again, there was someone else that I think I connected to him, because it's the network that's going to help you, dude.
Agreed. Can't do it alone, bro. And
you can't. And
you connected Eco Hustle. He was here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Eco Hustle. That's right.
I just sent him some purple non-sulfur bacteria.
Nice.
Right. So I'm like, here's some purple, here's some humate, just cover the shipping, bro. And it's on its way, so that he can start. And he's not far from here, maybe 6 hours. But I agree with you. That's part of what I've learned. You can't do it by yourself. You're stronger in community, and if you can build that regenerative triangle around you, then you can make stronger moves, and start making a difference, because if I could say, hey, like I've connected with the soil guys out in North Carolina. Hey, go speak to Jeff, man. Go speak to Adam. They're in your region. Yeah, I can send you this.
Mm-hmm.
But go talk to those guys, because they're going to give you a native microorganism. They're going to give you something that grows in your town, that, we start getting into the type of microbes that we grow, and behaviors that they have, and what I've seen, even in temperature change, right? Because again, I had 3 things brewing every day for 2 years. I mean, this, and that, taking notes, making video. Okay, well, guess what? All of a sudden, I have a Diloptis in my brew. Okay, let's mimic that brew 3 more times. Okay, 3 more times I did that brew. Why is there Diloptis here? I don't know. Well, let's mark the date. The following year, same date, same brew, Diloptis again. It's the temperature change, right? Because in November in Florida, we dropped in temperature. So right now, I'm tying that to temperature change here, which helps me, because if it is an apex cycler. So if I needed to go make a brew and I needed these apex cyclers, that's where I'm going after, to either remediate something or help remediate something, or help.
So the other 2 facultative anaerobes that are really amazing are rotifers.
Oh yeah,
and stock ciliates. I mean, those guys tear shit up.
Absolutely, man. They are the and what's amazing about like these guys, especially the stock ciliate will travel, but the rotifer, as it's traveling and pulling all this biology in, if it runs into a patch of EPS of biofilm that maybe is not the best thing, maybe because pathogens will behave the same way, it'll disperse them as it's traveling through this system. And, for me, those are the things that take it yet even further, because the rotifer is the shiny thing that we all love, but the bacteria and what the bacteria do are what really catch my attention, because these tiny things are moving mountains, and a healthy soil with rotifers in it will keep them honest by dispersing them, kind of like the cops showing up to one of our rallies back in the day. It's kind of like, get out of here, okay, cool.
I've had these debates with Elaine about facultative anaerobes, and I was like, Elaine, the rotifers are so critical in our aquatic ecosystems, because they feed the fish in the larval stage, and when we don't have them, those little larval fish can't grow into fingerlings. And because she was very negative about facultative and anaerobe, she was like, nope, has to be 100% anaerobic. And I demonstrated to her. I was like, look, if I do a facultative application on this burnt soil, and then wait 6 months, and I come back and do a full aerobic, I can turn that soil way faster than I can with just a straight aerobic soil compost extract. And she at first didn't believe me, but over the course of the last 6 months I was there, I grabbed a little plot and I demonstrated with a side-by-side. And, at the end, she started softening, but she had gone through hell when I first met her. I mean, she had literally gone through hell at that. So, I understand. And I was always like understanding that that's the reason why she had to be the way she was because everybody was out together. And there really were a lot of people out together at that point in time. So another thing that was really interesting was that she was like, well, you can't take compost from California and bring it to New England and use it because they're not the same organisms. And I was like, I don't know, Lane, when I'm out in California or down in New Mexico or, up in Idaho, when I look under the microscope, the testate amoebas look exactly the same. The nematodes, for the most part, look exactly the same. Like, yeah, once in a while I'll see something that I've never seen before, but the majority of the, advanced nutrient cyclers, they look the same. So I don't understand why you can say that. And then I went on to explain to her, I was like, before the great human expansion, right, when we started expanding across the globe, there was great migrations. And those migrations, man, they brought aquatic organisms from the river, streams, and lakes up onto the land. So did the storms, right? So did the tornadoes. Everything was being dispersed all over the globe. I mean, there's this woman I've been dying to get on this podcast for years now. She discovered air biome she was studying the smoke from wildfires up here in NorCal, and she literally documented protozoa floating around on ash, right? So we know that these organisms were getting dispersed all over the world, like not just the country. Like I'm sure you've heard of the sandstorms in Africa fertilizing the Amazon rainforest. Sure. Well, those are totally different fucking ecosystems. One's a desert and one's a rainforest, but yet they're working in harmony. So anyway, needless to say, eventually, we kind of agreed to disagree. We didn't talk about it much anymore. But most recently, I started talking or working with a guy named Dr. James White out of Rutgers. And he first turned me on to what's called horizontal gene transfer. And that's when two organisms come together. Say this bacteria flew in on a bird and got pooped out and landed in this new area, never been before. And it bumped into another local indigenous bacteria, and they basically communicate, say, hey, I'm new to the block. What do I need to survive here? And that one says, oh, well, what do you got to trade? Oh, well, I came from this area. And they trade. They literally trade RNA, which helps them, evolve. And then he gets into something called biosymbiosis. Now, this is where same situation, two different bacteria, they come together and say, you know what? You're really cool. I like you. I'm going to let you inside my outer shell. And so the one that's going in loses its outer shell and gets sucked into the cytoplasm in between the inner and outer shell of the other bacteria. And they hang out together and say, hey, you know what? I'm really digging this. Like, let's take it to the next level, right? Let's take it to home plate, man. And so it opens its inner shell, and that bacteria minus its outer shell goes inside and it hangs out with the nucleus. Eventually it's converted into an oregano, which is an organ. And then after that, when that bacteria divides, that oregano turns into the nucleus of the new bacteria. So it's a totally different species. It's like a man and a woman having a child, but if you've been married and you have several children, none of the children are the same, right? They're always different. They might look a little or look like each other to some degree, but they're individuals. They're not the same, spirit or soul or anything. So you really start to think about like the power of diversity. And you hear me talk about diversity, but that's the power of diversity in those situations where these two, individual bacteria can come together and literally have generation after generation after generation after generation in literally hours or days. Think about how quickly they're evolving into supporting the environment as it's changing. You got too much rain, you're not getting as much rain. You're getting too much sun. Whatever the new norm is for your microclimate, they're keeping up with that. And so,
we're able to study it because of the succession of it. Like unlike a human, right? We got to live 50 years. Every 20 minutes we were reproduction. That sounds like potentially that's how ciliates and amoeba came to be, right? They used to be bacteria. Like
dude,
there's
the latest paper on your eukaryotes. So it has now officially been agreed upon that there was two stems of life. So in the eukaryote and Agrula, Lynn Anna Agrula, I forget her name. She was the one that discovered that a bacteria took in a mitochondria,
right,
and then became a eukaryote, right?
Correct.
An advanced biology.
Right.
Well, now they've determined archaea did the same thing. So there were two branches of life, which is kind of explains why we have such diversity. I mean, what the fuck is giraffe? Right? Did someone get crazy and create a giraffe? Like,
yeah.
I mean, or a friggin' hippo?
Yeah.
I mean, how do they get so diverse, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of explains how parallel these animals could start to become very, very different in a relatively short period of time. I mean, they all came after the dinosaurs, right? So
Yeah.
that's not a lot of time. Dinosaurs were around for millions of years, but there wasn't that many millions of years ago when they got wiped out. It was, I don't know, hundreds of thousands. It really wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. And then, so that whole Luca, is it the last unknown or last known microorganism before that transition to eukaryote happened? That would be, then there would be two of them.
Yeah, what's called
Right.
the seed of life.
It's called, they call it Luca. If I were to look it up, it's last known or unknown microorganism or something, something to that effect, which was really cool. But yeah, it's happening. So, there's something that they're calling zorbs. It's a paper I was reading. Another, I got into the these microbes gluing themselves together through sending out auto-inducers and then quorum sensing and then creating these films. And again, I was able to reference your channel because you talk about biofilms and stuff like that. But there's now these zorbs that are happening through these microbes called flavobacterium. And so these rods stand up, and this is University of Wisconsin. There's a paper on it. I have it. I can send it. They stand up basically, and they create a donut. So I know that you know what an arcella is. It's like the shape of a donut, and they're rolling. They're mobile. So now we know that biofilms are mobile, and they're actually rolling. And as they're rolling, they're collecting other microbes. And when you start getting to cozorbs, now you're talking about we have imagery of this bacterium now in the center you have polymeric substances. You have glues in the center of this donut, and in the center of that donut it's collecting microbes, and this is happening for a total of like 17 hours before it dissipates. But even when it collects E. coli and Pseudomonas, for example, the E. coli covers the outside of the inside of that, and Pseudomonas in the center. We still don't know why. This is like a newer paper, and they just don't know why. Is it eating? What is it doing? They're mobile at the base. These bacteria are actually getting this wheel spinning in the soil as it's collecting whatever it's collecting. And I'm just like, what is this thing up to? And then it dissipates 17 hours later, right? Dude. And this is the craziness that we go learn about, that just completely intrigues me and says, whoa, I need to I need more. Right? I need to learn more.
Dude, you're right at the cutting edge, man. I can't believe that you are actually talking to me about this stuff, because there's very few people I can even talk to. They think I'm insane. Like,
that's awesome.
Biofilms are mobile. No, biofilms are glues. Well, they are glues, but they also bond soil together. Well, how do they bond particles if they can't move, right?
Yeah.
So they're expanding, they're contracting, they're rolling. Like you said, you ever seen a naked amoeba?
Oh yeah, I got tons of footage.
Yeah, they're so cool how they just like push themselves forward.
Well, it's got. I've got a video. I don't know if I could share something here, but I've got a video that I captured that is like cyclosis. So Dr. James White teaches rhizophagy, and I've got a root actually performing cyclosis, and then there's the border cells of roots, right? So at the tip of the root, it's releasing these shuttles. I see it as a comic book in my mind, right?
Dude, that's how it protects itself. When it gets to an anaerobic zone, the first thing it does is shoot off its border cells.
It's so awesome.
Brings it back.
It's so safe, dude.
Oh,
and then it's creating walls, right? So now you've got EPS happening. So a couple things are happening there. There's one potato. So you're pushing through, and it's creating mucilage to help the root push through those tight anaerobic zones. Mm-hmm. And it becomes an endophyte. When those cells finally die off, fungi come and start breaking those cells down. So this whole picture is like, God, it's so next level, and it's so strategic and so intelligent that it's a rabbit hole, man. It's a rabbit hole. And
so what you said was key. It's so intelligent. How could there not be a God? How could there not be an ether or a universe or something? Yep. It's just too well designed. I mean, have you seen the photography of the flagellum, the motor that drives the actual flagellate?
Oh yeah, Oh no, it's insane. And then the doors are open for the protons to come in, and the protons are in the it is like, and then it's that small, right? Or when you get into like the leaf and you get into the oxygen evolution complex and how it's taking those, it's ripping oxygen ripping electrons off of oxygen. Who does that except for a plant, right? And the amount of energy that's built up, I learned this from Nick from Rudy Leaf, the amount of energy that's built up in order to make that happen,
Right.
is a lightning strike if you were to upsize that. So then it sends the electrons down this electron chain, and now it's holding these radical oxygens that are so upset that they will rip electrons out of our own DNA before it quenches it with calcium. I mean, that is like,
it's the opposite of a nuclear bomb.
It is the opposite of a nuclear bomb, dude. And that is like, okay, we use this tech for bombs, but how about reversing that real quick and looking at what the plant's doing with it, right? Because the plant's like, oh, here, hold my beer, bro, while I rip these electrons off of this fucking oxygen that nobody else can do. Biologically, we don't know of anyone else that can do that. And the plant's just doing it in every cell, in every leaf, millions of times for every photon coming in. It's just...
Yeah, the level of now understanding subatomic particles it's a great time to be alive, dude. I mean, as scary as the fucking world is, and let's face it, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
But the science side of it, dude, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's like I'm excited to get up and find out what they've discovered now, or what I can see that I only had theory or talked to very few people about. Because again, when you're this deep down the rabbit hole, there's not a lot of people around, dude. It's not lonely. I'm not lonely, but I'm alone down there for the most part, because, again, you start talking like this and people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you watch the football games? Like,
right.
No.
That's exactly right. It's like talking to the wife about cars, right? So I don't care about cars. It's like, all right, I don't talk to her about the game. I don't care about the game, And that's I got to nerd out pretty hard last night, and a purple non-sulfur bacteria has been a big deal for me. Ever since Matt mentioned that, I went and I captured it and I started learning about PNSB and just what a Swiss Army knife it is in the soil, right? And what it's capable of doing, and the fact that it's creating endocetic acids, and it's creating its own this thing is a general to me. It's a quarterback on a football team that is saying, okay, we're going to go sweep right, go left, depending on the conditions of the soil. And that also sent me down a journey of like, wow, the power of the microbe. In the event that PNSB, for example, comes in contact with chromium, I speak on this one often because it blows me away. It'll take this cysteine protein that it makes, remove that sulfide group, and then micro or nanoparticle partialize if that's even a word, that chromium. And now that chromium is not available to the plant or us. And God, if that's not like next level quantum shit, and yes, it's doing it to protect himself, but if you follow the succession of the chain going up, it's protecting us, right? It's protecting the plant.
Protecting all life.
It's these dynamic accumulators, and it's really honestly something that's just mind blowing to me. And again,
and there are so many other ones that do similar stuff.
Absolutely.
So many. Like, we could go on for days about the species that we do know.
Yeah. That
are being what I want to call not nutrient cyclers so much as making things bioavailable or non-bioavailable. And that's really important to understand, because when you're a plant and say you want molybdenum, but there isn't any, you're going to go to the nearest thing on the periodic table with a similar atomic weight, maybe up or down. And you're going to keep going further and further away from that molybdenum until you find something close. Now you're going to take that up. That could actually F you up, right? That could make your deficiency even worse. It could be a multiplier. And that's where those critical bacteria are so important in preventing that exact uptake from happening.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, the whole system is reliant upon the things above the ground, right? So if you're a plant, you're reliant on sun, water, nutrition out of the soil. And if you're not getting those things, then you become sick. And then you're subject to pests, whether it's a fungal infection or an insect invasion. And now you're consumed and you're turned back into soil, which is what's supposed to happen, because we're the only species that ever has kept our own kind alive that shouldn't probably have been kept alive. And worse yet, as you continue to do that over time, you're weakening and weakening the human race, because you're interbreeding with things that probably should have been let go, right? And the opposite is true with nature. Like nature, if you're a sick chick or a sick puppy or sick whatever, you're pushed out of the nest. You're fed to somebody else. You're food for somebody, right? And that's where humanity got their conscience, and for whatever reason, decided no, we can save people, and it feels good to save people, but you gotta think about the consequences of that and the burden on the family that has to care for some of these children that just are born without any ability to support themselves. So and again, this gets really deep into religion and how people feel about these kinds of conversations, and it's drifting away from what we were talking about. But I think it's an important way to look back at what's going on and understanding that nature's perfect, humanity is fucked up.
Agreed, 100%. And the way I decided to approach this, once I had this, somebody called it an awakening, and I'm cool with that. Once I saw this to be true, immediately my brain said, okay, officially there's a creator. I don't care how you slice it, whatever that creator looks like, there's a creator. But secondly, it led me to honor the microbe, in the sense that I believe that the microbes can do it. Before, it would be like, oh, I have to see it to believe it. Now I trust the microbe until it's proven otherwise, because there's just things that we see in soil and under the microscope that to me is just, this is like EPS again, the glues that happen down there. This is where you get MOAM, right? It's a mineral associated organic matter. This is all happening because of the glues and because of the ions and the positives and the negatives that are taking this and turning it into this basically indestructible piece of organic matter. But the glues that are left behind are, I have an image that I took of a big biofilm with rotifers caught up all in it. And to think that the power of the rotifer, because that is a powerhouse, that's Incredible Hulk to me, swimming through the slide, and this glue just grabs it and just all of you, right? Like, this party's over. And we're gonna lock it down here, and we're gonna set up camp here, because we've got nutrients, we've got everything we need. For what, right? This is my problem, is I want to know why. And that's
have you ever looked at slime molds?
Not yet, dude. Not yet.
Now, if you look at slime molds, that's exactly what you're witnessed.
Oh man,
it's basically a non-intelligent organism doing intelligent things.
Wild.
Do I need to say that again?
No, you said a non-intelligent organism doing intelligent things, so then it makes me wonder, why is it considered non-intelligent then?
Slime mold has no brain, it has no nerves, it has nothing. I mean, the definition of life is weak, to say the least. Like, they say, a virus is not alive. Well, then how can it affect a living thing?
Right.
How can it enter and affect and change a living cell if it truly isn't alive? It can't.
Right. Well, doesn't it have RNA and DNA in it? A virus? Or am I thinking of a phage? I'm thinking of a phage.
You're thinking of a phage, correct?
Okay.
The actual virus itself is actually critical for evolution.
Right.
Anytime anything gets out of line, the virus comes in and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You're shut down, motherfucker. You can hang, but you're not just multiplying and taking over everything."
Right.
So all evolution was required or was allowed by viruses affecting good or bad things and preventing them from overrunning the diversity. And so, again, we're getting into some real deep conversations, and you have to come back on I want you to put together a library of pictures that, that really fascinate you or things that you want to talk about. Unfortunately, I have to bounce today at 3, and we have a few questions that I'd like to get into because that usually brings up further conversation. But I just want to tell you how much I've enjoyed your company today. You really have gone in such a short period of time to such a deep level. So
thank you.
Kudos.
Well, couldn't do it with you guys though, man. They couldn't do it without this team of people who are someone's got to take the baton, right? And at some point, it's time for us to run and do and deliver it with what you taught, because this backwards compatible shit shouldn't happen, right? It's like, okay, we know up to now where we're at. Let me take it from here. And people like Matt who push that science and say, but like you're saying, right? Anaerobic. I did a whole piece on electrogenic microbes and how they're shooting nanowires, and one of them is hitting, chloridium, Clostrilla, whatever it is, and is pushing energy into this microbe while it's breaking down iron. I mean, dude, come on, in an anaerobic condition. So yeah, I appreciate you, man. All about it.
And one other request: you get an external microphone. So when you Bob and me,
yeah, I keep forgetting about that. I gotta get a something to talk here.
Get one with you. Get a headset with you.
Yeah, it's true, because I'm too fidgety. I'm always ready to go.
It's fine, dude. It's
full of energy.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go compost.
And Leighton, you're dinging like mad today. People are texting you like mad, and you've got it on your desktop where it's giving you the reminders.
And you know what else threw me off, Leighton, real quick? On my YouTube channel, I had your trifecta that Rick bought, and I put it under the scope. And I was like, oh, dude, Diatom City, time to go get involved with more diatoms. And then it sat on my desk, and I fed it squid juice, right? Because I had gotten that product from them. And, man, the explosion of biology that happened woke up the whole succession of that. Maybe I'll share that with you next time, because you had dormant nematodes that just went after it, like big time. It was so cool to see. But, yeah, cool. Let's see what questions we got.
Okay, well, to let you know, Mo, I've got an opening in 2 weeks. So if you want to come back on in 2 weeks, you're more than welcome. We can book that after the show. But we'll go to our first question here is, good evening, guys. What is a good microscope to start off with?
So there are microscopes, and I would say reach out to me or Eagle's somebody who I always have with me. There's no need to get into the $8,000 microscope. What I've learned from these guys is that a good microscope is something that you can eventually upgrade the objectives and get a trinocular microscope so that you can get the camera eventually. The camera is going to be an investment, but to do the 8,000 off the bat, if I had to do it all over, I would do it differently. And let's just say that I would have, well, my family gave me mine, but I would have. There's a good starting point where you just want to make sure that the objectives are going to be the big part of that, because the objectives is giving you the quality, and then the camera is going to give you the quality of capturing that. So there are microscopes out there that are, like the oh God, I don't want to mislabel it, but it's an old school one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would recommend you stay under $500 for your initial microscope.
Yep.
Then as you upgrade, you can take that one with you out to the field.
Yeah, or you can upgrade that one if you get the right microscope. Like, there are parts that are upgradable to a lot of these. Like the Olympus makes a wonderful old school microscope that's still some of the best imagery I've seen, as far as, a normal bright field. We're not talking about the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 microscopes. So, and feel free to reach out. I'm on every platform, and I can get you in the right direction where you're not breaking the bank, because I think it's more important that you can just look and at least get started understanding what you're looking at.
And make sure that you understand how to set it up. I mean, most people don't realize that it's very important to figure out how to get the balance on the stage so it's at the right height, so that when you start, you're off to the races.
Yep.
So you definitely reach out to a guy like Mo or me on Instagram so that we can give you the basic instructions on how to set it up preliminarily, and then you never have to set it up again unless you're traveling. Then you can knock things out of settings.
And I'll throw up Mo's Instagram. And Leighton, where's your Instagram? We got your website. There it is. And that's Leighton's Instagram, guys. And I know, Leighton, when we first started this, 4 years ago, you were mentioning the Swift microscope as an economical microscope as well.
Yep. And there are actually some new brands coming out as well. So again, just don't blow the trumpet. Just
No
get
need to.
comfortable with a affordable unit, and then you can upgrade.
Yep. So our next question from Dirt Right. I wonder if amoeba perform biosymbiosis.
Yes, absolutely. All of them. Have you ever seen a kissing nematode? Yeah, it's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see in your life. They are kissing. What do you think they're doing? They're transferring RNA back and forth between the two.
I've seen that and didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, we knew there were two nematodes. We just called it the protus kiss. We're like, what are they doing? Are they stuck together? Or?
Hey, they're Frenching. What do you think French kiss? What do you think French kissing does?
Yeah.
When you French kiss a girl, you're sharing your RNA and DNA with her.
Sure.
She's back to you.
That's cool.
And there's more other things you can do that get even crazier than kissing.
Oh, I can show you some images, bro. I've got endotokia matricia. I mean, I got some stuff that I've captured early on that I had no idea what it was, and come back to it and find out.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm for the next till the end of this month. I'm going to be cutting it short. I'm only going to be doing 1 hour. I'm just going through crazy. But if you book the next one, we'll be doing 2 hours. So you definitely want to put together a bunch of things that you have documented or videos or things that you want to discuss, because it would be a lot of fun, and I know the audience would really enjoy it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Definitely
Cool.
Share some of this microscopy that makes you wonder. It's beyond just the ciliate moving. It's like I've got a rotor sucking the life out of a paratrich or out of a vorticella, just completely just sucking the life out of it. And it's like I caught that on video. It's not a picture, right? It's like
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So next and last question: how do you breed microbes?
Well, that's easy. You provide the right environment, the right food sources, and they will divide like crazy. So that's all it is. Like I think another example is the kissing amoeba. What the kissing amoeba actually is the division of one of the amoebas into the other one. You can actually see one of them blow up while the other one is slowly going down until they're equal size. And then they pull apart. Now you've got two amoebas. So yeah, it's very easy. The right environment, the right temperature. Right,
you'll see it in a tea. At the 28th hour, you're the 28th to the 32-hour point, you're going to see a lot of mitosis, a lot of just exact cloning of ciliates, right? The bacteria, harder to catch that, but when you see ciliates, it's not uncommon, actually. If you've got the scope, it's not uncommon to see this happen, and it's actually exciting because it's like, what's going on here? And then you spend a little time, and all of a sudden, boom, they just, like two balloons splitting, and one goes this way, the other one goes that way, or worms do the same thing. Some of them pinch yeast buds, right? It's this whole thing that's happening in the soil, and it's just happening depending on what you feed them and how you feed them, and
And you can watch the opposite too. You can actually see stock ciliates go in and out of cysts. When you get the oxygen too high, they'll start closing up, and then they'll pop open and do their thing, and then close up again. Really cool. Again, the world of microscopy is a dimension you can get lost in very easy.
Sure.
I mean, the first time I really got comfortable behind a microscope, you had to peel me away from it.
That's it. Once you get over the nerves of it and understand that it's not as fragile as it may seem.
Yeah, it's a bicycle. It's just a bicycle. Once you get comfortable riding it, you'll be able to, without even thought, you'll just be doing it.
And I like what Breed the Garden says here. A $20 microscope off of Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. Make that your first start. And if you're anything like Mo, all of a sudden you're going to be going, "Oh my God, I want to know more," and then take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. And I like the camera. I took Matt's advice on that was I didn't want to be discouraged by trying to get my eyes on an eyepiece, and here I go 4K camera, set it up. I go in and out as I do things. I check my teas, my compost. I can biosteer, and control my inputs and my outputs. by being able to do that.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with inputs. You know, just like in compost. The recipe book is endless, and
Yeah,
and you know, again, what I encourage people to do is, you know, kind of go extremes at first, so that you can learn. You know, this is about pioneering. So, you know, I mean, don't be a moron, but use your common sense and say, hey, I'm going to double up my greens in my compost pile and watch what happens. And then you're going to end up turning it every day and be like, I'm never doing that again. Right?
Or like me, be a moron in a bucket to fully understand when you see the crash. And you say, by being a moron, I saw the crash, and now I you know, I need to see things, right? I'm that guy. Let's go put more on and see what happens, right? And sure enough, okay, no bueno, dude. We went all bacterial.
That is the fastest way to learn.
Yeah,
is to
go mess things up,
not make mistakes. Learn lessons. There's a big difference. You should never be afraid to make a mistake, because it's not. It's a lesson. It's giving you it's building a roadmap. Like they say, 3 points on a graph paper. Now you know where things are going. Whether they're going down or they're going up. So it's first 3 experiments that help you learn which way to go.
I've always been that guy. Don't touch the fire. And I'm like, well, damn it. Don't touch the fire, right? Like, dude, trust me, it's gonna burn, bro. You know, that's even as a kid, you know, apparently that's the story.
Well, listen, I want to really thank you. It was great to meet you, Mom. Really looking forward to having more of these conversations. You're a great guy. Welcome to the journey. And yeah, you're turned with the torch, bro, man. Run as hard and fast as you can.
We got to, man. Well, thanks for being there and accessible. You know,
of course.
You know, without people like you, I'm digging harder, deeper, and it may become discouraging, you know, but it's kind of like, I'll drop a word for you that I heard you mention and walk away from it. Tartarian. I was like, I had already heard of that from a barber. And then
say that again. What was the word?
Tartarian. See, look at his face there. Yeah, that's a whole episode.
That, you know, it goes back to everything we were taught was lies. It really is, and it's sad, but that's just where we are in evolution as the human race. But a lot of people are scared to even mention that word, right? But anyway,
I think I had to end up in Rumble or something to even find any kind of information, and I was like, all right, I'm not ready for that yet. And then, you know, that was like a year and a half ago or something like that. So
hey, the Great Wall of China has the defenses on the Chinese side. Who built it? Was it the Chinese?
Yeah.
They were trying to keep the Chinese out.
Yeah.
Look at ancient maps and you'll see Tartaria.
That's what I saw. Yeah. I went a little bit there and I was like, oh shit, let me get out. Evacuate.
Another rabbit hole.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much for all the hard work you do behind the scenes. I really appreciate it. And I know that the audience appreciates the work you do as well. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Dave.
And tomorrow, guys, I have Jeff Hammond on. He's a quantum biologist. So we're going to get into that tomorrow. And he's on with Leighton next Monday as well. So you guys are going to want to check that out. But guys, have a great day. If you have a chance, like, subscribe, share, join the channel, become a defender of the biology. Anything you can donate helps out greatly to keep us going every month. So peace out, everybody. We will see you on tomorrow with Tim Hammond.